Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be working on largest number. And in this you're given a list of non-negative integers and you want to arrange them in a way that they form the largest number and return it. Since the result may be large, you need to return a string instead of a number. And so here you can either have 210 or 102. And so 210 is bigger. And here you kind of see the pattern. So basically the thing you have to know for a number is like, if we take all these digits, right? If we take 3, 30, 34, 5, 9, we're never going to have leading zeros. So no matter how no matter what numbers we have here, our final number is going to be the same amount of digits. So in this case, it's going to be 7 digits, right? In some random order. And so the thing to note for numbers is the significant digits are worth more than everything else. So if we have a 7-digit number, having a 2 with like all zeros, right, 6 zeros, is going to be worth more than this. So basically what we want to do is we want to maximize the leading numbers, and if we can maximize the leading numbers, the rest don't matter. So essentially having the biggest number at the front is like our strategy here. So in this case, it's kind of obvious what we want to have, right? We want to have the 9 at the front. So once we put the 9 at the front, then we have these left. Then it's also obvious we want to put the 5 next. So 9, 5. And then now this is kind of like the tricky part. Like, what if you have a bunch of numbers that start with 3? Like, what would you want to do? So basically, you want this to be 9, 5, but then what do you do with the rest of it? So if we put in, like, let's say we put in this 3 at the start, then we'll have like 3. What if we just have this order, right? This number. But the same kind of thing, because we want to have the most significant digits being the biggest we can. So we can have something like this, or 30 and then 3. But ideally, we want to have like the first digit is always going to be a 3, but we want the second digit to be as big as possible. So then you want to have 34 at the front, because then the second digit is the biggest it can be, right? So this is bigger than this, is also bigger than this, and so on. It's bigger than this, because like I said, the way to compare numbers is just whenever there's a difference, that number is going to be bigger, and you want that difference to be as leading as possible. So because this 4 is bigger than this 3, the rest of this doesn't matter. This can be as small as possible. This number will always be bigger. So we want 34 to be first. And then for these two, we can either have 330 or 303. And so 330 is bigger. So we want 9, 5, 34, 330. And that's kind of the idea, and we can basically break it down to writing a comparison function. So when we have two numbers like 905, let's say, and then like 98 or something, we can basically figure out like in which way we want these numbers. One way you could do it is go and like figure it out yourself. Like go digit by digit and see which digit's bigger, and then if there's a tie, like for example, if you have 905 versus, you're gonna get some tricky cases, like what if you have this, which one do you want, and so on. So the best way to do it is we can just take our two numbers that we're comparing. So let's say we do have this 905 and this 90, and we could say like, well, we could try it this way, or we could try it the other way, and just see which number is bigger. So essentially, we can just make a custom sort function where we compare two numbers, and the way we compare them is we can just join the string together. So for like 30 and 34, we can basically see like, okay, well, we could do 30, 34, or we could do 34, 30, and just figure out which one's bigger, and whichever one's bigger is going to be the order. So if 30 is bigger, then 34 takes priority over 30, which it should, right? And so on. So that's basically what we can do. So for the numbers that are different, it's really obvious. Like 9 and 5, it's obvious you want the 9 first. But if you do the same thing, it'll still work. Like you can get 95 and 59, and since 95 is bigger, then the first number will be first, and if 59 is bigger, then the second number will be first. So basically, this thing is just like write a custom comparator, comparing numbers, and then the bigger number will be better. And for string comparison in Java, the bigger number will be like bigger. So for example, like 95 is bigger than like 9 or something like that. There aren't weird, I don't think there's any weird kind of things that do happen in other languages. So basically we can just put the strings together, and then we can just do a string comparison. Actually, there are some weird things that happen, I think, in other language, but the thing is, when you have two strings A and B, and you add them together, either AB or BA, because they're going to be the same length, it will work like a number. You could convert back to a number, but basically, when you have two strings of equal length, the one that's going to be like the bigger number will be bigger. So essentially, that's all we're going to do is we're just going to write a custom comparator and do a sort, and then put it all together and just make a string. So basically, the code here is pretty straightforward. So we're just going to take all our numbers and transform them into strings. I think in Java, you have to transform them into strings or like integers. You can't use a custom sort on a primitive array. So if your language does allow you to do a custom sort on primitive array, you could do that, and that would give you an in-place solution. So you basically just convert them to strings, and then you compare the two versions. Do I want to do A plus B or B plus A as a string? Whichever one's bigger, that should go first. So in this case, because we want the reverse, we do string 2 first, then string 1. Then we just build it, and we put it all together. And then we check at the very end if the first character is a 0, because like let's say we have a bunch of zeros. When we put them together, you'll just get something like this. So for this, you just want to return 0. If there was a non-zero number in here somewhere, that number would come first. And because there's no leading zeros, that means this first digit would be non-zero. So you can just check. If this first digit is 0, that means the whole thing is 0. So yeah. Yeah. So this is mlogn. And for Java, it is a linear time space. And yeah, it's going to be all for this one. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next one.